The delivery is secure, gentlemen. Consider this your final offer. We require full equity or we walk.
That's impossible.
They told her to move before she could even breathe. The loading bay was already in chaos. Carts jammed together, voices sharp with stress, a crowd pressing in. A man in a clean jacket pointed at her chest and laughed. He said the delivery was late. He said she was lost. He said someone like her could not possibly understand what was happening inside this building. People nearby smiled, some looked away, no one stepped in. The black delivery girl stood still, hands wrapped around the handles of her cart, eyes calm but alert. The badge on her chest swung gently, catching the harsh white light. Her boots were worn. Her jacket was thin. Her face held a quiet focus that did not ask for permission. Behind the locked doors of the building, something fragile was slipping away by the second. And no one here knew it yet. But she was the only person who could stop it. She had arrived early that morning, before the sun warmed the concrete. The air still smelled of rain and metal. Her truck had rattled the whole way across town, the engine coughing like an old man. But she had coaxed it along with patience and soft words. She always did. She believed machines listened when you treated them with care. Her name was Amina Cole. She was 27 years old. Small in frame, strong in posture, with a calm that came from surviving things no one in this crowd would ever guess. The world saw a delivery uniform. They did not see the scars beneath the fabric. They did not see the weight she carried behind her eyes. She had learned long ago that silence could be armor. Amina had not always driven delivery trucks. There was a time when she wore a different uniform, one that smelled of dust and oil and heat. A time when her boots sank into sand that burned through the soles. A time when she learned to listen more than she spoke, because listening kept people alive. Her backstory lived in her muscles years earlier. She had stood in a faraway place where the nights were cold and the days were cruel. She had been young then, younger than she should have been, for the things she saw. She learned the sound of fear before she learned the sound of comfort. She learned how silence could calm a room, how patience could turn chaos into order. She had joined to pay for school. She stayed because leaving would have meant abandoning people who trusted her with their lives. She remembered the smell of strong tea brewed over a small burner, shared in quiet moments between shifts. She remembered the weight of a headset pressed to her ear, voices crackling through in languages she did not yet understand. She remembered the first time she heard Mandarin spoken fast and urgent, not from a classroom recording, but from a human voice that carried fear. It had been a turning point. Amina learned that language the hard way. She learned it because someone's life depended on it. She learned it because a mistake would have meant silence forever. She learned it late at night, writing characters by hand, repeating tones until her throat ached. She learned it with sweat and stubborn hope, and she never forgot it. When she came home, the world had moved on without her. Jobs were scarce. People smiled politely at her service and then looked past her. The uniform changed, but the feeling stayed the same. She took the delivery job because it paid on time, because it kept her moving, because movement kept the memories quiet. Now, in this loading bay, those memories stirred. The man who had laughed at her waved his hand again. He said she was blocking important work. He said the shipment was useless without the right paperwork. He said someone else would handle it. Amina watched his mouth move. She felt the familiar tightening in her chest, the old instinct to step back, to disappear. She did not. She took a slow breath. The air smelled like cardboard and tension around them. Others waited. Some checked their phones. Some whispered. A few watched her with mild interest, as if this were entertainment. No one noticed the small red label on her crate. No one read the fine print written in careful characters. Inside the building, a team of engineers was running out of time. A system had failed. A part was missing. Calls were being made to suppliers across the ocean. Voices rose. Fingers shook. A contract worth millions, tied 2 months of work and the jobs of hundreds hung by a thread. The missing component was here. The man stepped closer to Amina. His smile was thin. He told her again to move. She did not raise her voice. She did not argue. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a folded document. He barely glanced at it. He laughed again and said he did not read that language. That was when something shifted. Not in the crowd. Not in the man. But inside Amina, she remembered another crowded room years ago, where people spoke over each other and panic thickened the air. She remembered how she had stood then, too, quiet and steady, and how silence had made them listen. She lifted her head. When she spoke, it was not loud. It did not need to be. Her words cut clean and clear through the noise, spoken in perfect Mandarin, precise and calm. She explained what was in the crate. She explained why it mattered. She explained what would happen if it did not reach the right hands. Within minutes, the laughter died. Faces turned. Someone dropped a clipboard. The man stared at her, his expression draining of color as her words landed one by one, undeniable and exact. He understood enough to know he had been wrong. Others nearby understood even more. A woman from inside the building rushed forward, eyes wide, asking questions in the same language. Amina answered without hesitation, switching tones smoothly, offering details no delivery driver was supposed to know. Silence spread. Heavy and complete. One of the engineers whispered that this was the part they had been waiting for all morning. Another said the supplier had warned them about a delay, but this crate had arrived anyway. Someone else said they had been about to shut everything down. The power had shifted without a shout. Amina stepped aside as the doors finally opened. The crate was rushed inside, handled with care now, as if it were something alive. The man who had laughed could not meet her eyes. His shoulders sagged under the weight of his own words. No one clapped. No one cheered. Respect arrived quietly. As the crisis eased inside, the crowd outside thinned. People returned to their tasks, but something had changed. Heads nodded at Amina as they passed. One person murmured thanks. Another offered her water. The woman who had rushed out earlier stopped in front of her. She looked Amina up and down, not with judgment now, but with curiosity and something close to awe. She said they would not have made it without her. She said the company owed her more than thanks. Amina shrugged lightly. She said she was just doing her job, but in her mind, she thought of another line, one she had carried for years. Silent strength does not need permission to matter. Later, as the sun climbed higher and the crisis became a story told in calmer voices, the man approached her again. His steps were slower this time. He said he was sorry. The words were stiff, but they were there. He said he had made assumptions. Amina listened. She nodded once. She did not need the apology to stand taller. She had already stood tall as she climbed back into her truck. She felt the familiar ache in her hands, the roughness of the steering wheel beneath her palms. The engine sputtered, then caught. She smiled softly, whispering encouragement, as she always did. Behind her, inside the building, systems hummed back to life. Jobs were saved. Work continued. People told the story of the delivery girl who spoke Chinese and saved the day, their voices carrying surprise and admiration. But Amina drove on. Already thinking about her next stop, she knew something the world often forgot. You never know who someone is by the uniform they wear. You never know the battles they have fought in silence. And you never know what language they speak until you listen. Before she turned the corner, she remembered another line, one she had learned the hard way. Respect costs nothing, but the lack of it can cost everything. The city moved around her, loud and busy, unaware of how close it had come to losing something important. Amina blended back into traffic, just another truck among many. Her story invisible again. And that was fine, because heroes do not always stand on stages. Sometimes they stand in loading bays, holding carts, waiting for the moment when silence finally speaks. If this story moved you, share where you are watching from. Let us know what silent strength means to you. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, stay with us. Subscribe for more stories that honor the heroes you almost never see.